Do you ever feel stuck, like you are living your life on autopilot? Are you ready to shift into high gear and reach the success you so richly deserve? Welcome to the Play Big Movement podcast. I am your host, Sharon Lechter, entrepreneur, business strategist, and best-selling author. Playing big is not about settling for good enough or being comfortable. It is about reaching your highest potential and achieving your greatest success. Join me in my Play Big movement as I interview top experts in business, money, and entrepreneurship, all ready to serve you and to help you play big, be number one in your field, live your legacy, and create maximum impact. Welcome to the Play Big Movement podcast. I'm Sharon Lechter, your host, and I'm excited to introduce a new guest today. He's not been with us before, but I think he'll probably be with us again. Hugh Zaretsky I met him through Greg Kimball, through the Final Percent, and he brings such energy and light into the organization. And Hugh, you've done so much, and you've been a real estate investor, you've been a real estate investor educator, you're now into empowerment, and I love the title of your book, The Launch Button, your recent book. So I'd like to start though with my guest is to start off sharing a little bit about little Hugh.
Sure. Little Hugh was a quiet IT guy back in the day, and I played sports my entire life, so I've always been an athlete. But besides that, I was good at math, and in 7th grade, I was pushed into computers by my parents just as they were coming out when they were all the rage, and followed that path all the way through to becoming the youngest director of technology for a company called Getty Images, which most people in the space know from, photos, graphics. My job is to get a photo in from anywhere in the world and out to every major newspaper in under 5 minutes. Because the first photo sells, from the war to paparazzi to speaking events to all of those different things. And then 9/11 happened, and I ended up being one of the first people to take the picture of the scene that day, with that out to every major newspaper. And that's the day that changed my life and made me, I had the good job, I had the good income, the stock options, all of that, but I realized I just wasn't happy, and I didn't want to have that choice of jump or burn. So I fell backwards into real estate investing and then into speaking. I actually took a boot camp, and I know you teach a lot of speaking boot camps, and I applied just to learn how to raise capital at a boot camp. And they offered me a job to teach and train real estate investors around the country, since we were already doing the real estate investing. And that's how I fell backwards into the speaking industry. Never wanted to be one, but here we are, and we follow the path.
I teach power of association. It sounds like you've had that several times during your career. And, I think there's such reward going into an education platform and helping people discover ways to make income for themselves. It's such a traditional teaching of go to school, get a job, and to open their eyes to the opportunity to create assets that work for you, so you don't have to chase money, is such an incredible opportunity. So you actually got into some short-term rentals initially. Share a little bit about your real estate history.
Sure. So as you have the rule of association. I have this rule that says, if it's 70 to 80% of what you want, say yes to the opportunity. And so I went to a friend's wedding down in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, being from New York, and stayed in this really weird, what I thought was a motel, turned out to be a condo hotel. And I didn't quite understand what that was from my background. I never, each room was decorated differently. And we were there for the friend's wedding, and a friend of mine, we started talking with the owner. The person at the front desk doesn't actually own them, just rents them out for the different people, and was like, hey, what's this thing called Condotels? And that was back in 2003, before Airbnb and short-term rentals really took off. And then we started investigating more, and we were buying condos on the ocean pre-crash, right? 2005, 2004 for $60,000 on waterfront Myrtle Beach properties. And then, so we started doing that, and we ran out of capital. So that's why I took The speakers camp was to raise capital because I'd spoken for Wall Street, but I'd never spoken to say, hey, give me $1 million. Right. In my world, that's a completely different conversation at that time, not knowing any different. Right. And so that's where I got started. And then we moved into a friend of mine when I was speaking in Traveling Country offered to rent out my condo in New York City because we're right down the street from the Empire State Building in Manhattan, and offered to clean my apartment for free, give me a check, and then return my apartment cleaned when I got back from my speaking trips, and started putting my properties up on Airbnb. And then we transitioned over to the short-term rentals, doing that and pulling our properties off the condotels into the short-term rentals. Now, full disclosure, we lost some properties during COVID because we were not right, had not COVID, sorry, the crash of 2008 to 2000 or 2010 to 2012. We lost some properties in there because we were so young investors, thinking the market would just keep doubling and doubling. So we learned good lessons back then.
Yep, those are the ones that you hopefully don't ever have to repeat, right?
Yep. Well, and then we saw it during COVID. So luckily we got out of a bunch of our short-term rentals just before the hurricanes hit Florida this year. So we sold a lot in December and just got out in time from our waterfront property. So
well, that's somebody you had a guardian angel on your shoulder. That's great.
Yes, definitely. And I want to thank you. You gave me one of the best compliments I've ever received as a speaker, as we were, as you mentioned, in Greg Kimball's basement there, speaking on stage. And, you were one of the all-time greats, the goats of the speaking industry. And while I was up there speaking, I saw you taking some notes. And then when I got off stage, you'd followed me on social media and sent me a text message saying, great talk. And just your little grace and, compliment there was like one of the best speaking compliments I've ever received. So thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. It was well deserved. I don't do it unless I believe in it. So, so talk to me a little bit about your book, The Launch Button.
So I've had the great pleasure to work with some amazing people over the years. And I started writing this book actually back during the crash of 2008, 2010. In that time frame, I started it, and I hired a ghostwriter, and it just wasn't coming out right. It wasn't fully there. And I'm glad it didn't come out then, because over the years, just from experience and more stories and understanding the mindset of people making that entrepreneur transition from the corporate world, hitting the glass ceiling, and then switching over to real estate and business ownership. And I know we have similar philosophies on that I believe you got to have a business and you got to invest in real estate, because when one crashes, the other one does well and balances each other. And so I started writing just my story from 9/11 all the way through the process of working with students and using Airbnb, short-term rentals, and traditional rentals to provide that income so people could find their passion. Because I know I have this experience, and I'm sure you have it at a way higher level, but I ask people all the time, what are you passionate about? And half the time they go, I don't know, because people are just like floating like a log on a river, just getting pushed along by life. And all of a sudden they hit some sort of trauma, some sort of traumatic experience, and they go, what really makes me happy? Right. And so I was like, okay, let's help people find their passion and give them a path to launch their passions. Because a lot of people want to help people, but you can't help people until you help yourself first, right? Even the Bible.
Yeah, they're so busy making money by the hour that they don't have time to really think about what they really want and what makes them truly happy. And that's, the power of doing assets, my favorite word, creating assets. And you can do that through real estate or businesses. And so your launch, I love the launch button. I think that's great. So many people are so tied into their comfort zone, even if they're uncomfortable in their comfort zone, they need something to kick them out of that so they can find opportunities, because the opportunities are always outside the comfort zone, don't you think?
Oh, 100%, right? And we always say just on the other side of fear is happiness and that ability to find what you truly want to do. And most people just haven't taken enough risk because they get comfortable.
So the people that are watching and listening to this that may still be in their comfort zone and need that extra encouragement, give us a little bit of advice for them as to step 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so I know you have your the six cylinders and your six P's, right? And so the first one is the right people. And I believe that, right? There's a lot of people out there, especially in today's world on YouTube and everything like that. Everybody's an expert like in like 30 seconds. But we know that that's great when times are good, but you need people that have been through the trenches and through that. So number one is to find that passion. So you've got to explore. You've got to do different things. You've got to try all the things. Like I've got some pictures up here for those of you guys. Like I got into underwater photography. I'm from New York City. We don't swim in the ocean here and see things, right? So I got a chance to travel and go to Australia and other places like that and got into underwater photography. I would have never known I liked it if I hadn't taken trips or experiences or said yes to opportunities. So that's the first thing is find that passion, which means experiment, try different things, do different things, you know, get past your fears. And so that's number one. And then two is I have CDAs are my biggest thing that I work with people all the time. And it's consistent daily action, right? It's not magic. It's consistent daily action that leads to success. And every day, if we just take, we're moving closer or further away from our goals. So if we just have a couple CDAs, I say have 3 in your personal life, 3 in your business that you're going to do every day. It could be 15 minutes of learning, of watching a podcast like this. It could be 15 minutes of learning something new, 15 minutes of making phone calls for your business, writing a book, whatever it happens to be for you, to start doing that and just do that consistently. And unfortunately, so many people want things faster, but it oftentimes doesn't come fast. It comes over time and when you're ready.
I think that's great advice. And then those of you, I think you might want to rewind and write that down, because that's, it is consistent action is such an important thing to achieve any goal. So what's next for you, Hugh? What are you looking for? What's on the horizon for you?
Sure. So you mentioned our good friend, Dr. Greg Kimball there. We've just teamed up here in 2024, going into 2025. We're launching some masterminds there to really kick things off and explode there. We have a trip coming up in August of 2025 where we're going to go to do a speaking event in Africa and actually help a village by putting a rainwater containment system or a well in. We don't quite know which one yet. And so the kids don't have to do the walk for water. A lot of kids in Africa are missing days of school and every single day because they got to walk to get water. So if we can bring that to a village and also get to go on safari as part of that. So that's one of the big events we have planned for 2025. And really that's where we're taking things. I've hid in companies before in different groups and not really gone out there and been on the forefront or the leading edge of building my own business with the real estate and being able to speak for other organizations, and we're launching into that. So that's really the goal for 2025 is as we launch into it is to get out there and do more events, because live events are coming back, right? And I know you love live events and get energized by them, and live events are coming back. We have the potential to do some stuff with the Humanity Summit in 2025. So we got a chance to speak for them in last year to be able to go ahead and do that as well.
Wonderful. Well, Hugh, how can people find you?
Sure. 2 ways. We've got the Launch Button book, right, is on Amazon. So you can go right on there and grab it off of there. And then we've got HughZaretsky.com is where you can go ahead and connect with us on events, on masterminds, and hopefully more events with you in the future. I know we're coming back to your ranch. And by the way, Carol and your team is amazing at the ranch. The food was amazing. They did a great job. And of course, Rex the dog and your husband are also right up there with them.
He's talking about our ranch, which is, you can check it out at cherrycreeklodge.com. We do mentor and retreats there a couple times a year, and Greg had his group there about 6 weeks ago. It was a wonderful group. So it had such a great time, perfect time of year. So it's a little piece.
And we're coming back in 2025, I heard.
Yep. 2020, we're looking for a repeat performance. We're excited about that. Just really love what you guys do, and your community, your mastermind. They're incredible people, every single one of them. And I think is something that it proves the power of association. It's so important not to try and go it alone, to have the right people around you. So
Yeah.
you're going to hang out there with me. We're going to do another quick recording for the private Facebook group, the Play Big Movement, where we talk a little bit more about daily habits. We're going to talk about, things that you do to get through the tough times. So if you're watching and listening, make sure you rewind this and listen to Hugh's wisdom, and then make sure you're part of the private Facebook group, because everyone there has basically put a stake in the ground. So they want to be number one in their field. They want to live their legacy and create maximum impact. So Hugh, thank you so much for your time.
No problem. I appreciate being here, and such an honor to be here with you. And I look forward to doing more things with you in the future.
Well, I'm looking forward to that as well. So all of you watching and listening, thank you so much for being with us on this episode of the Play Big Movement podcast. Make sure you tune in for the private Facebook group for the rest of Hugh's story. Take care. Thank you for listening to this segment of the Play Big Movement podcast. Please subscribe to iTunes and leave us a review, as well as join us in other areas of social media: Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Sharon Lechter, and for Facebook, author Sharon Lechter. Thank you so much and have a fabulous day.